Hello everyone, Chrisa is here, and today we are switching gears and levels and we are looking at the upper body. So, for these last couple of weeks, we looked at the lower body with regards to the hip axis and how our hips move around our leg and our leg inside our hip. We even looked at the spine as the central as a central axis and how the spine moves, the different movements of the spine, um, uh, how that works in collaboration with how the hip is structured and how the hip is built to move, and all of those goodies together. So today we're going to be looking at the shoulder axis and how that it is how our arms, of course, how our arms are built to move, but also how that can inform our embrace, especially for the leaders that are, you know, do have to lead, and they are asked to be quite sensitive and quite aware of um, how much energy and how much use they make of their hands. Um, the these set of videos I think will be extremely helpful. As I've said, I think in the past, maybe I haven't said that to you, but maybe I have. So, as I've said in the past, you don't lead with your hands, you lead through the hands. So, we make the mistake of keeping the arms and the hands out of the equation, and we end up being very, very robotic and trying to isolate completely what's happening in the upper body with what's happening in the upper body, creating more trouble for ourselves, not only because we're creating tension, but also because we are trying to think uh, as two for two separate um, for two separate movements. One that is our movement, our body. So we're trying to direct our movement. And at the same time, we're trying to think of how to direct the other person's movement. And that's where that is where we get stuck as leaders, that is. So this is an attempt to start exploring how the upper and the lower body are working together, and how they can get we can get a better understanding by looking at the built form, uh, looking at the anatomy, and connecting the dots and finding these connections and these um, the common ground through movement. So, with no further ado, here we go. So in the previous videos, we were looking at the hip axis, and we talked about how the hip, how the shape of the hip is not rectilinear, and how it is set in an oblique position, and then how our leg actually connects to it again in an oblique position and not in straight square type of lines. If we go up in the upper body, we will see that we have the same orientation here in the shoulders. So as you can see, we have a similar head with a little bit of a shorter or not existent neck, but it's still like a similar shape at the top end of our arm, and it's situated again not in a square, rectangular, rectilinear type of position. And then zooming in and looking at the surfaces, we notice more similarities with the hip joint, because here too, the surfaces are not perfectly evened out. So we have a rather a curved surfaces that are not curved in towards one direction. So this is it's creating a little bit of a cup on one end and a ball on the other end. And the cup itself, as you can see here, the bottom surface comes a little bit further out, similar to what's happening in the hip. So you can see that at the bottom we have a little bit more support compared to the top. And with this idea in mind, we will try to see what kind of movements can we have when we have an oblique situated bone sitting on a curved surface, an unevenly curved or multi-curved surface. So as you will see, if you try to lift your arm up, if you want to stay congruent in the shoulder joint, the arm needs to come a little bit towards the center of the body. If on the other hand you don't do that, you'll see now. If you look at the shoulder joint, I'm trying to lift Skelly's arm straight up, not respecting the axis of the joint, and you will see that you have a disconnect of the surfaces. So the joint is not we're not congruent in that joint, and you'll experience some pulling and some squeezing and twitching at the back. So we don't want that to happen. Similarly, when you're taking your arm up, if you want to stay congruent in that shoulder joint, if you want to respect the oblique shoulder axis, you will allow for the arm to move inside the shoulder. So we'll have a little bit of a turn of the whole arm, and it will also fan out towards the side, so it won't go straight up, which would push your shoulder up to your ear. So if we try these movements ourselves with the help of a scarf or an elastic band, we will notice that if we go straight up, we will feel that glitch inside the shoulder. However, if we move our arm inside that ribbon, and ergo inside our shoulder, and allow it to flare out towards the side, things become a little bit more comfortable. Also, the wraparound of the scarf is not by chance. It is to replicate the geometry of the bone itself. Go back to Skelly's pictures and you'll see that it's our arm. It's not a perfect tube-like bone. So if we take the the props out and try this out ourselves without any extra equipment, try to find the movement inside the shoulder joint. Try to free yourself up from using too much muscle, and also try the opposite. So we went up, tried to go down and back, and also try to connect the dots with how we practice this same movement in the hip joint. You will notice that as with the legs, we have external rotation while going up, internal rotation while going down and back. So exactly what we've noticed while practicing being congruent around the hip axis. And of course, that shouldn't come as a surprise because the structure of our hip axis, as we saw, is very similar to the structure of our shoulder axis. So with this in mind, as you start moving both arms, try to find that freedom of this swing, similar to the freedom of the swing of the legs that we have been practicing for some time. And also try to notice that mid spot where the arms are, swinging through before they reach to the ultimate positions. And that sweet in between spot you'll start to notice if you go slower, becomes the spot for the embrace. And let's put those two together. So feel free to start swinging the leg first, and then add the arms if that feels better. Um, but I want you to try to notice how these movements have so many things in common, and how they are actually, one is actually a how can I say, a perfect match, a perfect partner for the other. How the arms, if you find that um, infinity shape of movement can help you move forward, how they can give you more power and more energy. Notice also how they can help you find the right transitioning movements for the body. If you were of the habit of keeping your body stiff and still, or trying to keep it still while swinging the leg, now adding the arms will definitely push you outside of that initial decision. And of course, we don't dance like this. This is an exaggeration. However, by adding the arms, we see all these spinal movements that we have been working on, how they are coming into play and how they are more expressed through the movement of the arms. So you can see how my shoulders are going up and down because of my trunk going up and down. You can see the twist a bit more evidently, and I will be changing my direction so you'll be able to see the wave of the spine as well. So you can see it here. So you can see that nothing is staying still, that there is movement throughout the whole body that is expressed through the limbs, through the arms and the legs. The other thing that I noticed in my body, and I think you will notice as well, is the power that goes out through the limbs. The arms and the legs being two really long elements that are hanging from our main structure, or from the main body, can actually gain a lot of energy and a lot of power when they are being, in a swing. So this is a great opportunity for a leader to understand how much energy the arms can create. So when we're saying that you're not leading with your arms, you can understand why that is. So because once you start putting energy through the arms, then that creates a whole different dynamics. Now here, if you go slow, and I encourage you to do that, you will notice all these transitioning moments, and you will also notice how the especially at the end, I'm really trying to exaggerate at the end, how the position of the body is extended through the arm. So see that end swing when my leg is reaching back and the same arm is reaching forward. See how an extension of the body position. Again, connecting the dots for the leaders, what you do in your legs, what you lead for your partner. To help you get a little bit deeper into that, I would like to invite you to grab your elastic band or a scarf, same folding around your arms. Now this is a lot more minimal, but the band can help you inform your conscious mind of these movements that now are not as obvious and as aggressively expressed as before, but they are still there. The band or any wraparound can help you feel that and help you become aware of these subtle, almost internal movements and help you in that way with your leading and following.